Hello everybody, I'm Paul Mansell. Today I'm going to be reviewing this book, 24 Studies for Ukulele by Lindsay Higgs. So this has just come out recently. Lindsay kindly sent it to me. If you haven't heard of Lindsay's been teaching for about 20 years and he's been composing for a fairly long time as well. He's already done some previous works for ukulele and guitar, and is a guitar and ukulele teacher. He's also worked with some people like Super Furry Animals, so he's worked with some pretty high profile people. This new book, which is out through Guitar Chamber Music Press, I believe they're an American publisher actually. So what we've got here, we've got 24 progressive studies, okay? So they start off relatively simple and get more complex as they go through. So before we sort of dive into it too much, I thought I'd play one of them to you. And I've gone for number 8, so sort of a third of the way through the book, which is called The Music Box. So let's have a quick listen to that first. So that's a really nice piece, gives a good indication of what the pieces are like. Well, I would say that this is actually written for re-entrant high G ukulele. I played it on a low G. You can play a lot on one low G. A couple of them sound a bit odd, but the majority you can play on a low G as well. But it is specifically aimed at high G. So all of the pieces are studies. Most of them are sort of right-hand studies, I would say, just to help you become more fluid. Having said that, they're really, really well written and nice pieces. I enjoyed playing all of them. They start off quite simple, I would say around about grade 2-ish they start at, and then go through to much more complex ones. So by the time we get to the sort of back end, you can see here they're fairly complex, probably I would say up to about grade 5. I believe Lindsay also writes for the MTB board as well. He writes ukulele stuff for them. So the actual book itself is very nicely laid out. It's got a lovely cover. I believe the painting's actually by Lindsay. Really nice, isn't it? Spiral bound, nice thick cover. All of the paper inside is glossy, nice and thick. There's a little introduction, and then Lindsay has been kind enough to write about each piece. You can tell Lindsay's got a classical background because he is using the PIMA system for the fingering of the plucking hand. Throughout the book, there's no notations on what fingers to use, okay? So their introduction. So I quite like that, to be honest, because sometimes it can get a little bit cluttered if you're putting fingerings in as well. You get the music notation and you get the tabs. Many of the pieces are dedicated to composers in the ukulele world. So he's composed ones and he's dedicated them to. There's one for Sam Muir, there's one for Tony Miz, and there's one for me, which was very kind of him as well. He does put in where you need to do bars, where you need to do a bar 8 there, for example, you need to do it at 3. You can see they're nicely laid out as well. I really like the pieces. They've got a modern feel to them. You know, a lot of them feel very sort of Carcassi-esque, I would say. If I was going to guess, I would say Matteo Carcassi is probably one of Lindsay's favourite composers. I like them because the early ones are pretty easy, but they're challenging as well. They also go in places that you don't always expect. Lindsay seems to quite like using 7th chords. and he quite often plays notes that are out of key as well. And he's gone through some unusual keys in here as well. I think it's a really excellent addition to the ever-growing ukulele repertoire. I've seen quite a few of Lindsay's sort of compositions online, and I always like them. He was one of the first people to do a ukulele concerto that was actually performed in Britain. In fact, I think he was the first person. So yeah, really nicely laid out book. There's no videos for it as yet, although like all things, slowly over time the videos appear of people doing them. Whether Lindsay's actually going to go through and do all the videos himself, I don't know. But they're very well laid out, very nicely marked, clear on what speed they should be, things like that as well. The book, I could only actually find it at Chamber Press Music, their website. I couldn't find it on Amazon, and I couldn't actually find it on Lindsay's website either. On the Guitar Chamber Music Press, it was $30, so obviously only in US. But I'm sure if you drop Lindsay an email, he'll be able to tell you where else you can get it. To me, it seems a shame it's not more widely available. You know, he's clearly a good composer. I love the fact that most of it has a lot of campanella stuff, and Lindsay clearly understands the high entrant tuning. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I will happily be using this with my students, would happily perform many of the pieces in here. A lot of the pieces are quite instant. You can play them and get into them pretty quickly and enjoy them. So yeah, highly recommended. So check out this book, 24 Studies for Ukulele by Lindsay Higgs. Okay, thanks very much for watching.